Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So, UK now being taught to prepare for the wartime scenario. I'm pretty sure you have seen loads and loads of articles that have been coming out for the past couple of days, and all the news outlets are covering the same thing and using the same words. Generally, the points are UK now being told to prepare for a proper wartime scenario. And this is all coming about because government now released their national security strategy for 2025. About a couple months ago, I did a video where we talked about an assessment that has been carried out. In fact, looking at the security of United Kingdom and how generally as a country we can deal with certain things. And unfortunately, that didn't turn out that well because we didn't have a lot of plans for anything. We weren't ready for anything. So now they brought out this strategy. So it is a very, very long document and it is now officially published on .gov website. The one thing that made me giggle, before I proceed, guys, is the whole, the title of the strategy. So the National Security Strategy 2025, Security for the British People in a Dangerous World. That just sounds to me a little bit corny, right? But nonetheless, but the document is very long. I will put the link down below in this video for you to have a read if you do want to have a read. One word of warning, if you are one of the disposition where you get a bit annoyed and angry where the taxpayers' money go, then I strongly suggest maybe giving this a miss and not actually reading that. The whole idea, this whole scenario, this whole security strategy is meant to be aiming at UK and making it more ready for the wars, for the conflicts, for other things. And you would think that the things that are covered inside it will really only be concentrated on the UK itself, but in fact there are loads of things there that are being spent somewhere else in very, very huge quantities. I'm going to leave this at that. So nonetheless, the document is very large, and I appreciate majority of us don't have time to sit there and read this, look through the little graphs and charts and stuff. So I basically read through this. I also watched the interview with the powers of be to talk about certain things. So I selected specific points to basically bring this to your attention, to underline what's going to be happening. Because as I said, there's a load of covered in there, but I thought of select a few things that I think just relevant to an average people, so you know what's currently happening. So that pretty much is just a little breakdown of the whole thing. So in this document, they're not just talking about sort of the military alliance and that sort of thing. They are now actually talking about the preparing UK and every one of us for direct threats at home. And of course, as well, the specific words they're talking about. So UK must be ready for a wartime scenario on a British soil. And again, when I seen the interview, it's pretty much the same thing he'd been told, or he was saying that, yes, there are apparently threats and we want to make sure that our country and our people are ready for those kind of scenarios. So number one, we're talking about the direct threats on UK soil. So now they openly warned that attacks on UK itself is really a real possibility. And they're now not just talking about these cyber attacks. So this included, right? So potential sabotage on critical infrastructures. So we've got like power grids, fuel pipelines, transport systems, and undersea internet cables. They're talking about the targeted cyber attacks against emergency services, government systems, and financial networks. Again, over the past 6 months, we covered this many times on this channel. There have been plenty cyber attacks on many things, including MOD, which don't really get talked about a lot. And also, they're talking about the real, although still unlikely, the risk of chemical, biological, and physical attacks on the British territory. Okay, so again, they're potentially talking about the nuclear. And this is really strange because I've seen an article only this morning where there is suggestions that they're telling people to actually stock up or upgrade their war bag is to actually buy yourself CBRN masks. So we're talking about the chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. We're talking about the basically gas mask. So this is the latest article. They're telling us, okay, this is very unlikely, but we suggest you buy one of those. I gotta say, I do own one of them. It's a military grade. It's worth about £600, but there is 3 of us in the family. I could not afford to buy this. The reason I have this because I did a promotional video for the brand that I have this. But generally, to encourage people to spend that kind of money on a face mask for something that's apparently it's not very likely, I think is absolutely ridiculous. But nonetheless, the information's there, and this is what they're saying. And this is where they talked about they thought that the threat would be abroad, but now they actually worried that potentially all those things can actually happen on the UK territory itself. So now we're talking about the number 2 was they talked about the massive increase in defense and security spending. So, right, the government is now committed to increase defense and national security spending to 5% of the GDP by 2035. Again, last time when we talked about it, right, they were suggesting, our government was suggesting that we're going to be spending 2.4% of GDP, and yet we've been forced by other countries to increase this to 5% of the GDP. And this is a huge jump. So this has taken us to additional 30 to 40 billion per year. And this is, we're talking about, guys, our taxpayers' money. So this money will be gone into strengthening the UK nuclear deterrent, okay, expanding drone defences and the long-range strike weapons, growing cybersecurity operations, and importantly, investing in UK's ability to defend itself at home. And they're talking about that it's not all just to do with the armed forces. A significant share of the spending will go towards the building homeland resilience. That means making sure the UK can withstand and recover from attacks, disruptions, and the supply chain blocks. Again, it's very strange because again, we covered this many times when we talked about the supply chain disruptions for the food especially, and the government always said, well, they always had a plan. And in fact, when people probed deeper, there was no plan available. So I'd be very interested to actually know how it's really going to work, considering we rely on imports like pretty much 90%. And with the food, it's crazy. If you haven't seen, I've done a video of what's going to be happening if the ports close. It's really an eye-opener to really see how many items are actually gets imported from abroad. So anyway, moving on to the fortifying critical infrastructure. So again, they're concentrating heavily on making sure that our critical infrastructures are safe. So we're talking about the power grids, fuel and energy supplies, transport networks, digital and communicational system, ports, shipping lanes, and the food supply chain. Of course, they're talking about that those kind of infrastructures, or especially the food supply chain, is one of the, or could be one of the key targets in the future conflict. So now we're talking about technology, intelligence, and a cyber upgrade. So a part of this strategy, they're talking about keeping up with the rapidly evolving threats. Again, I understand we do have so many cyber attacks constantly. So the government is investing additional 600 million to upgrade the intelligence services and expand the cyber defense team. 600 million. Okay, again, you understand where the money is coming from, right? So anyway, so they're going to be focusing on the artificial intelligence to speed up the threat detection, drone defense and the long-range surveillance, undersea protection for internet cables and fuel pipelines, cyber rapid response units that can counter threats in real time. And also the strategy points out the need for greater independence on technologies, reducing reliance on the imported foreign supplies of critical technologies and materials. Again, I covered this in the imported video. Even parts for the things that we make in UK are imported from abroad. So anyway, and the last one, again, as I said, guys, there's so much more generally there, but they're talking about the whole society preparedness. So apparently the national security is now seen as everybody else's responsibility. So now, okay, so government going to be introducing the annual national resilience drills. So this will involve emergency services, armed forces, businesses, and general public. Large-scale simulations, okay, and readiness exercises to test the UK's ability to respond to major emergencies, including cyber attacks, infrastructure failures, and supply chain disruptions. So the clear message was there, right? And I quote, so the public is a part of the national defence effort. So we can expect from a government more public awareness campaigns, more community resilience programs, and more opportunities for individuals and businesses to get involved in strengthening national preparedness. I wonder, what do they mean by this? Would that be more public awareness when they're going to be coming up with more articles saying, oh, buy yourself a nuclear mask, or prepare for incoming missiles? Is that what they mean by the preparedness? I don't know. But anyway, this strategy makes it clear the UK moving away from the idea of security's job as a military, but it's basically we're all in this and we're all contributing to the security of the country. So basically the whole point of this strategy is to make sure that we're prepared as a country before we actually test it. So there we are, right? This is just a small selection of the bullet points for anybody who were interested in what's actually in this document, but can be bothered to spending half an hour reading this and comprehending all that. As I said, I will put the link down below if you do want to have a look. But generally, it's something, as I said, we already talked about in the many videos, all these things, the preparedness for cyber attacks, is all great. And I do point out specific things, like when they talk about the solutions for certain things, how they aim to implement that. But again, it's all well and good writing this on the paper, putting this forward, what they're planning to do. But I do genuinely think that it's going to be really, really difficult to achieve. And again, the sheer amount of money, okay, is getting poured in the different, in the different places. This is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, guys, well, I hope you have found this video helpful, or at least hopefully maybe it saved you some time reading through the whole thing. Otherwise, please don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. There's loads and loads more videos planned in terms of the preparedness. Obviously, this is a preparedness channel, and we're going to be talking about how we can mitigate certain things and basically cover a load and load of subjects and get ourselves ready. So there we are, guys. Don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I shall see you soon. Bye-bye.